Republican Trump critic Mitt Romney said on Tuesday that if Trump decided to run again in 2024, he'd likely win the GOP nomination. Here to discuss is Bloomberg Opinion senior columnist Tim O'Brien. Hey, Tim, I want to get to Romney's comment in just a second, but I was just interviewing Ambassador John Bolton. You saw the interview. He basically said that the Republican Party needs to move away from Trump. And he said that Trump lost this election himself. What do you make of the ambassador's comments?
I agree with both of those points. I mean, I think if the Republican Party wants to mount, from a purely strategic standpoint, a credible stand against whoever the Democratic nominee in 24 is, I'm assuming it'll be Biden again, and do well in the midterms next year, they're going to have to figure out how to resolve the schizophrenia that has split the party apart. And I think it's not really useful to think about it as a break between moderate conservatives and the far right. What it actually is a break between traditional conservative or Republican policymakers and people who have embraced disinformation and propaganda as an electoral strategy. And that's divorced from policy. That's simply about the acquisition of power at the expense of the truth. That's bad for the country and it's bad for the party. And I think the GOP has to resolve that. And I don't think, I think that Mitt Romney is of that mind. Clearly, Bolton is. I think Mitch McConnell is. And I think that's where you're going to see the real cage match inside the party is trying to dispel that side of its identity.
I mean, if the last few weeks are any indication, the identity still seems really stuck with President Trump. I mean, you have Matt Gaetz traveling to Wyoming to try to get Liz Cheney recalled. I mean, she is like a conservative's conservative, right? They spent more energy trying to do that than trying to censure Marjorie Taylor Greene for her wacky conspiracy theories.
Well, you put your finger on it. That's exactly the dynamic. And I would remind you that Lynn Cheney is still in place and Matt Gaetz failed there. And if Marjorie Taylor Greene is the future of the GOP, the party will split, pure and simple. That's not going to be a tenable approach for them. And beyond that, you still see on the Sunday talk shows, in legislative hearings on the Hill, Republicans openly saying they still doubt that the results of the 2020 election were credible. And this is after we've had an insurrection on January 6th and a lot of social ruptures around that, including an impeachment of Trump. And yet they're holding on to it. So I think that should give you some sense of the gravity that myth-making and propaganda hold right now in the party.
Is there a conservative leader for the Republican Party right now? Is that person Mitt Romney? Is there somebody who can challenge Trump to be the leader of this party?
Well, I think that Romney is styling himself as that person. I'm not sure he is. I think there are more adept communicators than Trump who are Trump, I think, in sheep's clothing. I would point at people like Josh Hawley. I think he thinks that he has a future as the leader of the party. I think Mitch McConnell will be an important power broker around that. The biggest, I think, instructive lesson to the GOP and all this will be their voters. They didn't win in 2020. If they want to win again, they've got to do something about this.
So what happens this weekend at CPAC? The former President Trump is addressing a national audience for the first time since no longer being president. What do you expect to hear from him, and how does this threaten the Republican Party?
Well, I think he's going to reassert the idea that he remains the future of the party. He is the party's best guiding light. His interests in that are entirely self-absorbed. He can profit off of that. He can still run very lucrative and potentially media-friendly roadshow events over the next few years if he looks like a kingmaker or the next nominee. And I think that's why he's going. But again, I think CPAC may not be the best bellwether for where the party's headed down the road.
That's a great point. Bloomberg's Tim O'Brien. Hey, Tim, thanks so much for your time. It's always great to see you.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.